he managed the crime scene. So I did not see where he indicated that I've managed the crime scene, this is what I did at the crime scene.
No, but what do you mean? You've just had Commissioner Khumalo reading many paragraphs of General Khan's statement, which says, this is what I did at the scene. And Mr. Msikidi has also referred you to how he explains why he got to the scene in the first place. But more importantly, for purpose of my point, it's what Commissioner Khumalo has read for you, which is many paragraphs, where General Khan explains what he says he did when he got to the scene. And I'm really raising with you that, but your statement that he was unable to explain when he's given you an explanation, it's not a correct reflection of, because imagine this, if we didn't have General Khan's statement and we had your line that says he was unable to explain, in everyday language, it means you never got an explanation from him about what he did when he was at the scene. So I'm quarreling with you, or I'm raising with you that it's not correct to say he was unable to explain. That's one. Two, goes back to the question of analysis, that had you engaged and analyzed his statement, his explanation of what he says happened at the scene, you would then say, I don't believe it, or I don't accept that explanation for reasons A, B, C, D, but you don't engage with it, you just make that statement.
I take that, Commissioner.
Okay, thank you.
I didn't even refer you to page 100 of General Khan's statement because I only read 2 paragraphs. On page 100, he gives you a blow-by-blow of what he did when he got there. For example, the last sentence in paragraph 11, he says he called Colonel Sepungo, who told him that he's not aware of this operation that Pakula is busy with. He says in paragraph 13, I called Chief Director Maisela, who's Mashaba's commander. He also did not know about the operation. So he gives you all the steps that he took to arrive at his conclusion that what these 2 people were doing was unlawful and unauthorized because their superiors did not even know about the operation. So they were there without their superiors' knowledge, and what they were doing was without their superiors' knowledge. He then explains why he took the steps he took. But in your earlier engagement with Commissioner Baloyi, you said Khan should not have been there because he's a general in crime intelligence. Now he has explained why he was there in the first place. He was called because people raise concerns that there's a suspicion that people who claim to be crime intelligence may be stealing drugs. He then tells you, this is the time I got there. In paragraph 10, he says, when I arrived on the scene, there were many police officers. I also saw that the bakkie was fully loaded with black bags, and then it continues. And then he mentions all the people he spoke to, all the people he contacted, and then the last sentence in paragraph 12, he says, when I asked about the offloading of the suspected drugs, they said they did not know that the bakkie had been loaded. It continues. And it leads to the conclusion that he then forms that this was criminal conduct. So all of that is there, but all of that is missing from your report because in your report, you say he could not explain his role at the scene. And Commissioner Baloyi says, why do you say that when in his affidavit to you, he has explained his role at the scene? You may not like his explanation. You may think his explanation is nonsense, but it's not correct to say he did not explain his role or could not explain his role.
Okay, I take that, Commissioners.
Do you accept the point?
I accept that.
Thank you.
And before being at the scene, he explains why legal happens at that scene. Do you see that?
On paragraph 5?
Yes, page 99.
Yes, I can see that, Commissioner.
Yes. So there are explanations for everything, but as Commissioner Baloyi says, whether you agree with it is neither here nor there.
Yeah.
But explanations are there, and you suggest that there were none. You may comment if you want to.
No comment, Commissioners.
Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. Perhaps just to round off that very same topic, let's look at what, because the same applies to General Khan, General Kadwa, what you say about him, to say that he has no explanation. When you go to page 110, his statement starts at 109, but I want to go to 110, just to give you a sample, to demonstrate that he also gave an explanation as to what he was doing. So at paragraph 6 and 7, he gives the reasons why he went there. And he says at paragraph 7, I then activated members of the Serious Corruption Investigation and SANEP, Brigadier Luwele and Lieutenant Colonel Ludik accompanied me to Ereton using my vehicle. On my arrival at Skenya, I got a brief from Major General Khan on what transpired. In my capacity as the provincial head, Directorate for Priority Crime Investigation, I have overall responsibility to oversee the prevention, combating, and investigation of national priority offenses. I can confirm that the case relating to the transitional drug trafficking is actual mandate of the SANEB, which is a specialist capacity within Directorate for the Priority Crime Investigation, DPCI. After receiving the briefing from Major General Khan, I was satisfied that this specific case was within the mandate of the DPCI. So he tells you there why he was there. He analyzed the situation, he was briefed, and he satisfied himself that this fell within their direct mandate. But in your report, you pick up on General Kadwa and say he indicated that he did not do anything at the crime scene. But he told you he assessed the situation and came to a conclusion that this was an appropriate case for them to be involved in. Is there any comment to that as to why this is not reflective in your analysis?
Commissioners, what he wrote here on paragraph 10, he said, I remain at the Scania premises for the rest of the day, but did not directly participate in the actual investigation at the crime scene. However, I accept the other information that you just gave me, like reading from paragraph 7. I accept that, yes, that information is not appearing on the report.
Yes, I think what we are trying to say is that it is quite incorrect of you to say that both of the generals, however, they are unable to explain, or they were unable to explain to you as the IPAD their role. They did explain to you in the affidavits.
I accept that.
Yes.
And also, these issues are being raised not necessarily to say, or rather to indicate where the truth lay. That's not the point. But it's more about what you ought to have done in the face of this info, and indeed, more specifically with regard to what you ought to have said in your report. Because your report doesn't take these issues into account. So this is not about where the truth lies. You follow me?
I follow you, Commissioners.
And then maybe one more person that I want to deal with in your report. You also pick up on, so the last paragraph that you read in, so it's paragraph 3. You also make reference to Major General Mtombeni, which you say that he states that indeed he did call Chief Mashaba with the instruction of General Mawela. I want us to have a look at General Mtombeni's statement. That appears on page 30 of the annexures.
Got it, Commissioner?
Yes. Now, it is not clear what reference, but you are here to explain. You can explain to us why you made reference to, or what we should make of that reference to Major General Mtombeni's statement. But this is what he says anyway. At paragraph 3 of his statement, he says, during the vaccination drive, I remember speaking to an official attached to the Gauteng Traffic Police who introduced himself as referred Chief Mashaba, who indicated that he was following an information on drugs, and he indicated that the police are about to arrest him. I then said to him, I will inform Acting Deputy Provincial Commissioner for Crime Detection as the matter relates to the investigation to liaison with him dealing with the matter. I have never instructed Brigadier Shibiri to visit the crime scene. And then he says this, the Acting Deputy Provincial Commissioner, Brigadier Shibiri, his contact numbers, he provides them. The Acting Provincial Commissioner Shibiri gave me a feedback that he spoke to the Gauteng Police Traffic Official, referred to as Mashaba, that the matter to be dealt with by the Directorate Priority Crime, the DPCI, known as the Hawks, as a matter related to drug trafficking. Brigadier Shibiri further indicated that he will liaison with the DPCI provincial head, Major General Kadwa, to deal with the matter. And he says at paragraph 5, I cannot remember if the official attached to the Gauteng Traffic Police, referred to as Mashaba, phoned to the telephone number he provides of Lieutenant Mawela, or whether Lieutenant Mawela gave his phone to me, as the itemized billing of my telephone, nor of that Mawela only flagged the dialed calls received. I can only confirm that on the 9th, Lieutenant General Mawela was at SAP's Pretoria Mood vaccination point to be vaccinated. That statement does not speak to anything that has to deal with at least attempting to justify why, because it refers to Mashaba, why Mashaba was on the scene. Now, with that in mind, please have a look at Chair. There's a statement by one Dumisani Pompi. Chair, there is a separate file which would say Marumo Mahane. It's an exhibit bundle, and it says iPad investigation.
Page?
You have the file?
I've got the file.
Yes, go to page 206. For the record, Chair, it's CJC 229.57.
You said 226?
206.
206.
Yes. Are you there?
Up here.
Thank you. Can you, for the record, read from paragraph 2?
On the 9th July 2021, at about 10:34, I phoned Mashaba as the acting deputy director in the Southern Corridor to join my visit to all the K78 roadblock in our area to give support to our officers. He indicated to me that he has an urgent matter he is attending to, but he did not mention the matter. I respected what he told me due to the nature of his meetings and operations. In his area, he will normally work morning shift or afternoon shift. In all his work engagements, he keeps communicating with me as his supervisor with regard to his duties. At about 11:26, I received communication from Deputy Director Sikonyane that Chief Mashaba is being arrested by the Hawks. I called Chief Mashaba and his phone was off. And just few minutes after that, he called me. He then told me that he could not tell me that they had an undercover operation of drugs when I asked him earlier to join me for the visits to the K78. He told me that the operation was successful, but they're just having a misunderstanding with other members of crime intelligence. The indication from him was that they are fine and they will handle the situation. For me, this denoted that the responsible person from SAPS that approved this operation will discuss the misunderstanding with the general from intelligence.
Then go to the next page at paragraph 5.
I was phoned by Chief Director Tami Maisela about the matter, and I explained to him the sequence of events from the time I received the information. The Chief Director Maisela and I agreed that I would give statement when the time is right. Later that day, I received a call from Mashaba that he is being arrested for doing his job. I can confirm that I did not place Acting Deputy Provincial Inspector Mashaba on duty for the activity he was performing at the time of his arrest, and he did not even inform me about it.
Do you have this statement as part of your investigation?
I just have to check from the,
On page 164 of the report, you will see there it's 839. Is that correct?
I'm going there. It's a TK, which number?
So on page 164, you will see towards the bottom, it's
164.
839.
164.
164, yes.
Okay.
On the schedule of statements and documents that you submitted.
Why do I see yellow tags? Are you in the right file?
Yes, I am.
Okay.
I am.
So we are back to the main statement fact.
Yeah.
Yes.
Page 164, yes.
164, yeah.
Yeah.
Yes, I was just assisting in
yes,
answering the
Is
question
that,
by Commissioner Baloyi. That's the
Yes,
statement.
oh, thank you, Mr. Msikiti. So you did have the statement?
Commissioners, I cannot confirm whether the statement, the contents of the statement here is the same as the statement I have in the docket. I cannot confirm that.
Do you recall taking more than one state? Well, maybe let me actually rephrase that. Now that you know that his supervisor
Yes.
said, I didn't know anything about this operation, you must accept that your conclusion that Mashaba had the consent of his superior to be in the operation can be correct. If his supervisor says, I knew nothing about this operation.
Yeah, I accept that, Commissioner.
Okay.
I want to understand your response regarding whether you, or rather, about this statement, which is A39. I'm not
Yes.
quite sure what your answer or response to Commissioner Baloyi's first question is. What do you say about this statement?
I'm
Which
saying
you have listed as A39.
A39,
at
yes.
page
I
164.
yes.
What are you saying? You seemed to suggest that there may well have been another statement. I didn't quite get what you were saying. Yeah. So actually, yeah, at the top there, you see 206 in red, and there is A39 written there.
Yes, it's A39.
Yeah.
Yeah, Commissioners, I'm saying I'm not sure if this statement, the contents of the statement is the same as the one that I have in the docket. However, the information of
What do
saying...
you mean by that? What do you mean by that? By the content possibly not being the same?
I'm not,
Or whether it
this,
is-
this statement, is it from the case 252 or whether it was from the case 98? But I know of the fact that the supervisor of Mashaba indicated that he didn't know about the operation that Mashaba was conducting on that particular day.
You knew that?
Yes.
Just look at the top, page 206.
That
Just
statement
look there.
is
What
Yes,
does
it
that-
is.
It does mean
Yeah.
that.
Yes.
So there can't be an issue about the content because you are saying you are not sure if the content is the same. So if this is A39 and you've listed A39 at page 164 being one of the statements that you are reporting about, so the content must be that of A39 to which you are referring in that long list of statements,
Yes.
surely.
Yes, this is the statement. Yeah. That, but
So we must forget.
the commander of Mashaba did indicate that he was not aware about the operation.
No. I'm not asking about what the commander said. I'm talking about the statement that you made, which was that you are not sure of the content of A39, because that's effectively what you meant when Commissioner Baloyi was engaging you about A39. You said, I'm not sure about the content.
Okay.
Now you seem to be accepting that this statement, the content of which we have all seen, is indeed A39. A39
Yes,
that
it
you have
is.
listed here in that long list of statements
That's correct.
that you considered in putting
Yes,
together your report.
Yes.
Now what I'm saying is, so we must forget about your statement that you are not sure of the content of A39. So we must forget about that.
Yes, we must forget
Thank
about
you.
that. Yes,
Thank you.
Commissioner.
Yes, Mr. Musigiri.
Thank you. You will accept then, because you will see at paragraph 4, you make recommendations, and that disciplinary steps must be taken. And I want to put to you that in light of what you have discussed and the lack of evidence in support of that conclusion, that recommendation of yours is not supported by the facts that are at least discussed with you today. Can you accept? Do you accept that?
No, I don't accept that, Commissioner. But I don't want to go back to what we've already discussed. But if you are saying so, then I'll say I hear you.
Yes.
Sorry, can I, in the light of that answer, let me put this to you. Let me ask you this. Why do you make a recommendation that Brigadier Sekhobela should be charged? Discipline and criminal. You say nothing about her in the report at all, in your report. I've looked at her statement of what she says. She got to the scene, the kind of things that she did. Why do you recommend her prosecution? And her statement, it's at page 120 of your file.
Page?
120. It starts at 120. And from paragraph 9, she explains what she did. In fact, maybe, are you there at page 1?
Yes, I'm
Okay,
here.
so at paragraph 121, rather page 121, sorry, she says, I received information via WhatsApp, office WhatsApp, so it's formal, about the drug bust at Ereton. I was on duty since Ereton falls within our jurisdiction. Then she says it was my duty to attend the crime scene, so she gives an explanation. And then upon arrival, she was received, she tells you, by General Kadwa, Colonel Sibula, Colonel Ludik, and there were other people there. She says it was evident the crime scene was not handled properly. And then here's from paragraph 9. She spoke to General Kadwa, who instructed her to contact Mokhane's superior and Pakula's to establish whether they were aware of their presence at Ereton and if they were on duty or personal capacity. She contacted Zongi Zizwe police station and his superior, Mokhane's superior, was on sick leave and was not aware of the operation. I said, his failure, Mokhane failed to give a proper account of his role, and she concluded he must be treated as a suspect. That's about Mokhane. And then about Warrant Officer Pakula, she contacted his superior to confirm his role on the crime scene. He declined, the superior declined. And then she says, this coupled with the fact he was out of his area of jurisdiction and failed to or refused to provide any reasonable explanation, this made him a suspect. And then Mashaba, due to his rank, it was difficult, as a traffic officer, it was difficult to get any information regarding his role. However, his presence at the crime scene as a traffic officer and lack of reasonable explanation made him suspect until the contrary was proved, and he was treated as such. None of their participation and the explanation provided made me believe they were law enforcement officers on duty. When confronted, they were ought to disclose who was their informant, where was the parcel heading, and why did they decide to intercept them at that point. That's what she says up to that point. Your report says absolutely nothing about her, what her statement says. You say nothing. In fact, even in your summary of background in the report, you don't say anything about her in the summary. Your report is completely quiet about her until you get to the list of recommendations or the people that you recommend for prosecution, and that includes Sekgobela. Why?
I accept, Commissioners, that the report was quiet with regard to this member.
The same with Steyn. Your report is completely silent about him, and you recommend the serious measure of prosecution against them. But I want to go back to Sekgobela. On the face of it, it seems like as the person in whose area this falls, she was right to be there. And she tells you, what I did is I called their superiors, and then I said they must be treated as suspect. What could that, on any definition, constitute interfering obstruction of justice?
I hear you, Commissioners.
You accept there's nothing, at least in the report, and in
Yeah,
the
in the
and in
report,
her statement, and in her statement too.
In
her statement,
yes,
you
I
accept
take
that.
Yeah, I accept that.
I mean, maybe let me put this in fairness to you, that it seems you receive the complaint, you accepted that complaint as true. That's what happened. These people were conducting an operation, and then you close your mind to whatever the suspects say to you in their statements, and effectively you determined this issue without an open mind about it, in that you accepted the allegation as true, and then drew your conclusions that they obstructed the course of justice because of what the complainants have alleged, and you never interrogated anything else in these statements, which then raises the question, why do you even get statements from these people if you're not going to engage with them? Yeah. Or did you want to comment anything?
I hear you, commissioners. Maybe it's the way the report was drafted.
No, it's
But
not the way.
the purpose of us obtaining the statement, it was for that purpose that we check whether these allegations were true or not. So that was the purpose.
Of course, I expect
But
that's a purpose.
I hear what you're saying, Commissioner.
And this is not just directed, this line of inquiry and the concerns being raised, they're not just directed at you. The same for your superior, Mr. Kiafela Kai,
Yes.
because ultimately he approves, he signs off on your report, and we see
Yes.
his signature.
Yes.
And that he would sign a recommendation to prosecute Brigadier Skobela, as an example, when the report does not discuss anything about, does not even acknowledge an explanation and reject it, is concerning.
I hear you, Commissioners. However, if you check the decision that was taken by the NPA, they also indicated that it is a matter that must be dealt internally. So internally, it has to be in this fashion.
Yeah, it's even before we get to the NPA, it is the IPID, you have huge powers. Your recommendation, your investigations and recommendations have consequences for people.
Yes,
They do.
they do, yeah.
And